Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of vBrownBag, the weekly IT learning video podcast, where we bring you luminaries, visionaries, and really smart people in the wide world of technology to talk about their favorite topics. I am Chris Williams. With us tonight, we've got Joshua Tracy, and he's going to talk about Terraform, but we've also got a couple of other people in the audience. No, that doesn't sound right. Shala, Raja, Sean, how you guys doing?
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Greetings.
So what we're doing, Joshua, is we're approaching this presentation from multiple facets. Raja is security, Shala is cloud engineering and networking, I'm enterprise architecture, and Sean, what is it that you do again?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
That's right. And so as we go through the presentation format, this is a very fun, casual chat talking about the topic of the night, which is migrating from Terraform TFE to TFC. You are clearly on a deserted island. Do you have good bandwidth, and how are you doing tonight?
Yes, I'm using SpaceX, so I think I'm good. Wait, not SpaceX, Starlink. Yeah, same guy. Yeah, I'm doing good.
I'm using my Tesla, so everything should be fine. It's fully self-driving. And Shal, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm laughing at Starlink.
I'm sorry, Raja, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was saying blast off, so let's go.
Awesome. Well, go ahead. All right. Before we get into it, let's do a couple of housekeeping notes. Get in on the conversation. If you are on any of the social media venues, Threads, Twitter, Starlink, LinkedIn, Mastodon, we will be paying attention and ask us questions. If you are in the live studio audience tonight, feel free to ask questions as well as we get into it. We will be paying attention at vBrownBag on just about everything, or if you hashtag vBrownBag, we'll be paying attention there too. And with that, why don't I stop my share? And Josh, we can banter as, oh, we didn't test your screen share, so this is probably going to go terribly now, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Is it my turn to share?
It is your turn to share.
Okay.
But we will natter on as you're doing it.
Google Chrome for now, then I'll swap it to whole desktop later.
So for all the Southerners down there, what temperature is it right now? Is it 120? Is it 150?
It rained today, so it's like 93.
It rained, so it's 93.
Yeah.
Oh, I want rain. It's been about 2 months since we've had rain in 102, 103, 101 every day.
Brutal. Yeah, my wife was actually just down in the town that Shala lives in, and she was there for a weekend, and it never got under 105. I was like, I have no idea. Even the hotel room that she was staying in couldn't keep up, and so like the walls were sweating the entire time.
Dang.
Yeah.
And hotel AC is like the good stuff too. Like when I go to a hotel, I turn it down all the way. Right.
Exactly. What's the temperature out there where you are, Sean?
Probably 86.
Oh, nice. Are you in a three-walled house? I don't know. I mean, I've seen some houses there that actually don't even have like one wall. What's your situation?
2 walls. Mostly it's 2-wall house, 2-wall architecture.
Wow, I got to see pictures of this later. That sounds cool.
Where are you at? Oh, wait, don't answer that if you don't want to.
I guess he doesn't want to. All right. He's afraid of the internet stalkers. Cool. Okay. Well, Joshua, feel free to take it away. This is going to be an organic thing, unless you don't want us to be. If you want to time this out and then ask Q&A at the end of it, then we can do it that way, or we can pepper you with questions as we go.
No, yeah, let's make it organic.
Yeah.
Don't know if I'll have all the answers, but I should because I wrote the tool with 2 other people. So I Okay.
So if you don't know the answer, nobody does. So this is going to be perfect.
Yeah. So I'm talking about migrating from TFE to TFC. So TFE would be Terraform Enterprise, and TFC would be Terraform Cloud, acronyms. I'm a resident solutions engineer recently here at HashiCorp. Before that, I was an implementation services engineer. And my job day in, day out is basically to help people with Terraform Enterprise and Terraform Cloud adopt it, integrate the application, if it's enterprise, into their platform and environments, do all the architecture, what's the database going to look like, what's DR going to look like, what is TLS certificate rotation going to look like, all that good stuff. And then how to adopt the workflows of Terraform Enterprise, Terraform Cloud into their environments, how to integrate into their CI/CD pipelines, onboarding processes, stuff like that. And then I make YouTube videos on the side about stuff that I wish somebody would have made a YouTube video about when I was first, trying to get into this career. I'm like that. I think my first video was like that SSH key permissions too wide open when you try to SSH to an EC2 instance. Yeah. Spent hours trying to figure that out when I first got into this. Yeah, and then you can follow me on LinkedIn. So for the people watching or anybody who's not familiar with some of these acronyms, I kind of want to set the stage here. So Terraform, we're all kind of familiar with what that is, most of us anyway, in the industry. It's that command line tool, the CLI, where we run Terraform plan and apply, and then we create our infrastructure. But most people, or I wouldn't say most people, some people may not be familiar with Terraform Cloud, which is a SaaS offering for running and managing Terraform. And it gives us like a UI, RBAC, access controls, and a private registry, and a bunch of other features. And so this is what that would look like if you had Terraform Cloud and an organization. You would have workspaces. Terraform code would be managed in a workspace. A workspace might be connected to a VCS repository like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, right? And then our run history of all your plans and applies would be in here. All of your state files would be versioned in here as well, and then maintained by Terraform Cloud. Your variables, you can do health checks. It's a whole bunch of features around it. You can set team permissions to decide who can do what with a workspace. Like, should they have write access, the ability to do a plan and apply. So that's just a quick overview for the people who aren't familiar with Terraform Cloud. Oh, and then that is the SaaS offering maintained by HashiCorp. So they maintain the infrastructure. All you need to do is log in and start working. And then Terraform Enterprise is the self-hosted offering of Terraform Cloud. So if you need, for whatever reason, to use Terraform Enterprise, then you would have to manage the PostgreSQL database, the object storage, TLS certificates, DNS, load balancing, all that stuff that comes along with hosting every enterprise application. So any questions there before I move on?
I will have a bunch, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to table them for. I think you're going to get into it. So okay. No, not yet.
Okay, got you. All right. So with the terminology out of the way, TFE is Terraform Enterprise, TFC is Terraform Cloud. I'm going to walk you through a scenario. So put yourself in the practitioner's shoes here for a minute. So you buy TFE, and at some point, you as the application owner, you admit that self-hosting a Terraform Enterprise is hard, right? It's hosting any enterprise application takes money, time. You have to maintain it. You have to keep re-upping TLS certificates, licensing. Right? There's a whole host of things that make it hard to host an enterprise level application. Mm-hmm. So you buy Terraform Enterprise and you decide this isn't for us, costs too much time, too much money. We just want to work. And then you discover this thing called Terraform Cloud. and you say, that's great, it works for my company, it meets all of our security requirements, policy requirements, our CTO said, yes, you can go ahead and use that to deploy our resources using Terraform. So you create your Terraform Cloud organization, you log in, maybe you work with HashiCorp to, come up with pricing deals, what have you. At the end of the day, you get a Terraform Cloud organization. But then you realize, how do I get all my Terraform Enterprise data from Terraform TFE, Terraform Enterprise to Terraform Cloud? There's no magic import button in Terraform Cloud, and there's no magic export button in TFE, right? If you have 1,000 workspaces with one state file in each workspace, 1,000 state files, all of your infrastructure is being managed from Terraform Enterprise, how are you getting it into Terraform Cloud and maintaining that state, right? And this is the issue that we're trying to solve using this tool that I'm going to introduce you to. So hopefully I answered some of your questions already, Chris.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
So then you start thinking, okay, well, how am I going to move everything over? So Terraform Enterprise normally contains one or more organizations. It's a multi-tenant application, right? So an organization would be your tenancy. And then each organization has 10 or 100, sometimes thousands of workspaces. And then each one of these workspaces has teams and permission sets attached to those workspaces. Each workspace has 1 to however many state files, right? You could have 100 state files. And if you care about keeping every version of that state file, how do we get all those over? And then variables, you could have 50 variables attached to a workspace, right? So going through your options, you first start thinking, well, maybe I can just migrate everything manually. Maybe I can go into the UI, create a team, assign permissions, do that for every team, create a workspace, right? And that's just not feasible, right? Especially if you have hundreds or thousands of workspaces. Because even if you create the workspace, and that's going to take you maybe a minute in the UI, to get your state file over there, you're going to have to do something like pull your Terraform code down from wherever it sits, version control. You're going to have to add this Terraform cloud block to point it at the workspace you just created. You're going to have to do a Terraform init, pull that state down locally. And then you're going to have to, I did that in the wrong order. You're going to have to do a Terraform init, pull the state down locally, and then add the cloud block with your organization and workspace and Terraform Cloud, and then do a Terraform init migrate state, and then it's going to move your state from your local machine up to Terraform Cloud. And that's just one workspace. And that whole process is going to take you probably 5 to 10 minutes, right? And then once you get in the groove, maybe it'll take you 3 to 5 minutes of workspace. And it's still not a viable option. It's just too much time, considering all the other things you have to worry about in a migration. So your next option is to use the TFE provider. So Terraform has a Terraform Enterprise provider, which works with Terraform Enterprise and Terraform Cloud. So if you're already managing your Terraform Enterprise using the TFE provider, right? So if you're creating workspaces using Terraform, command line, then you could just point this Terraform code at your new Terraform Cloud organization, run a Terraform apply, recreate all your resources. And now the only thing left to do is to move those state files. And the only option we have then is that pull down the code, run an init, get the state locally, modify the code with the Terraform Cloud backend block, and then do Terraform init migrate state to move the state. Or we could use the API, but then we have to write some kind of custom homegrown tool, script solution, to then loop through all of our workspaces and figure out what all the state files are and then move them over to the matching destination workspace, right? So we're growing tech debt there, takes a little bit of R&D. So that's the second option. Third option is you could use TFM. So we called Terraform Migrate. TFM is a standalone CLI tool, and we wrote this here at HashiCorp Implementation Services. So this was written by me, and special thanks to Jeff McCollum and Carl Javier, which at the time were HashiCorp implementation services engineers. And together, the three of us, based on field experience, right, we saw a lot of people who were using Terraform Enterprise deciding Terraform Cloud was the right solution for them. But they had so many workspaces, their Terraform Enterprise organizations were so large, they looked to us to help them figure out how to do this. And through multiple scenarios of helping people move from Terraform Enterprise to Terraform Cloud, that is how we came up with the Terraform Migrate CLI tool, written in Go. And we kind of built it based on feedback from experiences in the field. Yay, TFM. So I'm going to,
Sorry, Joshua. Really quick, TFM. How long is when did that get developed? I don't know if I heard you say that. You know how long it's been out.
Yeah, so we developed TFM. We started developing it. I want to say September of 2022.
Oh, okay.
And then it was only 3 of us on the implementation services team, and it was kind of just a thing we were doing on top of our workload. So we didn't actually make the repository public and create a release until I want to say February of 2023. And so far we still have it labeled as beta, right? But it's public. We do have HashiCorp partners using it to assist in migration services. So I'm going to be doing a demo on that today. So I'm also going to link you the docs. So if you want to go try it out, you can do that.
Is it available? Is it something that anybody can just jump in and play with?
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you've got a Terraform Cloud or Terraform Enterprise account and organization, you can go ahead and use this. I can drop a link in the chat.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great.
Yep.
Nice. And I'll put that in the show notes as well so that people watching in the future will be able to see it too.
Yeah, and I'll go over the docs a little more later when I start doing the demo. But we really tried to make this. At first, it was, how do we build this so HashiCorp and partners can help people with Terraform Enterprise and Terraform Cloud do this migration? And by the way, TFM doesn't have to be Terraform Enterprise to Terraform Cloud. It's really any Terraform Enterprise or Terraform Cloud org to another org. So you could do Terraform Cloud org to Terraform Cloud org, or Terraform Enterprise org to Terraform Enterprise org, or Terraform Cloud to Terraform Enterprise. But we're just focusing on Terraform Enterprise to Terraform Cloud here.
Is there a list of things that is supported in the migration? Like one thing I'm thinking of is the VCS connections. Are those supported? Or I would imagine not, because they have to create new callback URLs and all that kind of thing. Or do you also support those? Well, first question, is there a list that shows what's migrated and what's not? And then the second question is, do you support sort of those, non-workspace things in the migration?
Yeah, so currently, and when I do the demo, you can pass the -- help flag, and that'll show us all the commands. But in the docs, we do have a command section. So I'm going to go over how Terraform Migrate works, but essentially it does a copy. It doesn't actually move data. It just makes copies of your data. And right now, it only migrates teams, workspaces, variable sets, and then within workspaces, it migrates state files, team permissions, variables, VCS assignments to a workspace, team access. I don't know why that's here twice. But the actual VCS connection itself, we recommend you do that manually, because as you said, there's some back and forth with your VCS provider.
Right. No, thank you.
So
Yeah,
yes,
this
this.
connection- Oh,
Oh, no, you can continue.
oh no, sorry. I'm having bandwidth problems. That's why I'm off video. I may have dropped for a second.
Oh,
He's got a half-second lag on his responses.
oh, I got you. So Terraform Migrate, again, was specifically developed with some key points in mind. So we wanted TFM to be non-destructive to your source data. So it only reads about what's going on in your source organization, and then it replicates that or recreates it in the destination. So we're not actually moving a state file. We're taking your state file, storing it in memory, and then recreating it on the destination side, right? So when we say source, we mean wherever you're coming from, Terraform Enterprise, to destination, Terraform Cloud. And then we wanted to limit interruptions to production runs. So you could keep TFE in production and run this tool, and there should be no impact to your Terraform Enterprise that is running in production. Because again, all we're doing is reading about the data and then recreating it on the destination side. And Terraform Migrate is only as good as your planning strategy. So at the end of the day, if you're not by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail.
You mean we can't just hit go in one fell
Yep.
swoop and just cross our fingers? That's how most enterprises do it, right?
I mean, you could, but you're gonna have a bad time.
You're gonna have
If you
a bad
pizza when you
time.
French fry, you're gonna have a bad time.
Okay.
But is there a like a cool way to do like the mappings and everything for what you want to do, you know, to like make sure you're doing everything in the right order?
So we do have on the documentation, we do have under migration planning, right? So we have this migration journey section, and this is how we recommend you do a migration. So the different steps you might take. These aren't absolute, right? You can do these really in any order. The most important part of the entire migration process, in my opinion, is the cutover process, right? How do you decommission the old Terraform Enterprise and then start using Terraform Cloud, right? If you've got CI/CD pipelines pointing to Terraform Enterprise, if you've got 1,000 users in Terraform Enterprise, if you've got a bunch of Terraform code that references the Terraform Enterprise host name or a Terraform Enterprise organization or a workspace name, if any of those change on the way to Terraform Cloud, that's a lot of Terraform code that needs to be updated. If your modules, if your providers, if those are not being sourced from, or should I say, if those are being sourced from Terraform Enterprise, then all of your code that sources those modules and providers, that needs to be updated to now source that from Terraform Cloud, right? So it can get pretty hairy. So that's why we've included this migration section, some prerequisites that we recommend you take a look at, an example scenario on how to use this tool.
Oh, it's even a questionnaire too. Nice.
Yes. So the questionnaire is, so there is a Google Drive link here, but if you click that, it's going to send me an approval request, so that's really only for HashiCorp employees and partners, but the same things are basically right here. You know, the TFE version you're on matters, the number of organizations you have, right? This is all discovery work that you want to do. And then for TFC, you know, are you consolidating from 2 TFE organizations into 1 Terraform Cloud organization? Because that's going to matter. Are we migrating everything or just, you know, a couple workspaces? Do you use cloud agents? Is networking between agents and TFE? That's going to be completely obliterated. Are your agents going to be able to talk to TFC, right? So there's a lot that goes into this other than just running TFM copy workspace.
Agreed.
And then, yeah, so step 1, the planning for migration. Are you consolidating orgs? Do you have 5 Terraform Enterprise orgs? And are you going to 1 Terraform Cloud org? Because we can't have dual naming conventions. If you've got a workspace with the same name and 3 TFE orgs, and you go down to 1 TFC org, some of those workspaces need to change. Those names need to change. And we account for that in TFM as well. Networking, right? Does everything Terraform Enterprise integrate with? If, for instance, if you connect to GitLab and do VCS-driven runs in Terraform Enterprise, when you start using Terraform Cloud, is that GitLab on-premise in a data center? Are we allowed to get ingress into that environment, right? Or do we need to set up a whole new VCS? Do we need to punch a hole in our network? Right, these are questions we need to ask. TFC agents. Oh, we did.
Josh, I got a question going back to the organization consolidation really quick. You said workspaces, if you have a same name in two different orgs with the same workspace, right? The same name. When you run the TFM, let's say you forgot to check it and you ran the TFM, is it going to spit out an error or is it going to continue going through?
So it's going to copy one of those workspaces, and then when it attempts to copy the second one with the same name, it's going to error out because you attempted to copy a workspace that already exists. Well, It's not going to stop though. It's going to keep going. It's just going to skip over it.
Cool.
And if you're like playing around with it and you say, hey, I think this really needs to be a feature, please, there's a feedback section where you can give us some feedback on how can we improve this? What features would you like to see? We're waiting for those to trickle in. So please do.
Because I think that, if you think about it, it would be kind of cool if even if it did have a same name, it would, tag the second one, like, Roger is my first workspace, but Roger 1 is my other workspace.
Oh, right? Okay. I see. And like kind of append a.
Yeah, right. Keep incrementing it, right? Different numbers, but just a thought.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. You want to take into account any limitations or TFE only features, right? So in TFE, you can specify a custom run agent for Terraform Enterprise to use. Can't do that in Terraform Cloud because that's part of the underlying HashiCorp infrastructure, right? So if you're doing that, you have to now figure out what you're going to do. Are you going to use external agents outside of Terraform Cloud to account for that? And then how are we going to cut over? And specifically, we don't want a TFE workspace and a TFC workspace, the same workspace that got copied over. We don't want them both connected to the same VCS repo at the same time, especially if they're doing VCS-driven triggers, because that means if we push a commit, we're going to run a Terraform plan in both workspaces at the same time. We're going to run an apply in both workspaces at the same time, and we're going to have a bad day. So really, and I think that the last step in the migration, and I'll go over this a little more, should be assigning the VCS repos to all of your workspaces.
Curious question.
Yes.
So for the TFM, do you have to have a certain permission to be able to run TFM? Like, for instance, do I need to be an admin, or can anybody who's, within my organization run TFM?
Anybody can run the TFM binary, but you need the correct token with the correct amount of permissions to migrate whatever you're attempting to migrate. Yeah.
Thanks. I like that.
So TFM is going to have it has a list command where we can during the planning phase, we can take stock of our organization. How many workspaces do we have, right? So we can help plan this out. And I'll demonstrate that in a minute. And then we also have a --JSON flag. So if you wanted to get all your workspaces names and then kind of pipe that to JQ, get a JSON list, we've accounted for that as well. All right. And then once you're done with discovery, we're actually going to do the migration. And we're coming up on the demo, I promise. So you've identified your dependencies and you're ready to operate in TFC, and you have your migration plan. It's in Jira. You have an epic created, and you have all your issues. So now you can start migrating, assuming you're using Jira. I don't know. Now, manual configurations, you're going to do SSO and VCS manually. So you're going to connect GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, whatever, to Terraform Cloud manually. You're going to configure SSO manually. And then we're going to migrate teams. And then at that point, you can begin onboarding users, assigning them to teams. And then all of TFM's migration commands are a copy command, because again, we're not moving data, we're just copying data. And I just want to get to the demo. And then each copy command, like teams, varsets, workspaces, has additional sub commands like copy workspaces -- state. And this is so we're not just running TFM copy everything. We are allowing you to copy workspaces, and that's just it. And then copy states, and then copy variables. And you can do it in any order you want. Well, I mean, you can't copy states before the workspace, but generally you can do it in any order you want. And this gives you flexibility, because if you're in the middle of migration and somebody updates your infrastructure on Terraform Enterprise workspace, you have a new state file, but you've already migrated that workspace state file to Terraform Cloud. So you can just run migrate state again, copy workspace state. And it's going to see there's an additional state file that's not over in Terraform Cloud for the same workspace, and it's just going to copy it. So we tried to make this as like fine-grained as we could.
Yeah, and you've taken into consideration a lot of things that people don't think happen, but literally always do. Rerunning something, accidentally deleting something,
right?
Ignoring the code freeze or the push freeze, and just doing this is great. Yeah,
because like a Terraform Cloud or Terraform Enterprise to cloud migration, it's not like a one-day thing. Even if you plan it, it's like a couple weeks at best, right? So we understand that if it's production TFE, you're still going to be running stuff.
It's interesting. So I come from hundreds of cloud migrations, and those things take 6 months minimum to years and years and years. I didn't think, I guess it was naive, but putting as much care, thought, and feeding into just the IAC and the state file, this is very illuminating for me. I appreciate this.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate the feedback. And then after we're done with migrating, we need a plan. How do we cut people off TFE? And then we need to modify all of our integrations, CI/CD pipelines that we're talking to TFE, make them talk to TFC, update all our Terraform code if it was referencing Terraform Enterprise in any way, to now use Terraform Cloud. And then we need to lastly connect the version control repo for each workspace to each workspace. So we have a command to help with that in TFM as well. So demo time. Oh, I talked for too long.
No, that was a great setup.
Is it a live demo?
Yes, a live demo. Let me make sure I deleted all the workspaces.
The appropriate demo gods have been appeased. This is going to go fantastic.
I practiced this like 4 times. Okay. So I have Terraform Enterprise over here, TFE.Joshua Tracy, and I have a bunch of workspaces. So I have a CLI-driven workspace, and I don't think I have enough time to go over the different types of workspaces, or do I, Chris? How much time do I have?
We generally shoot for about an hour, but this is good. I mean, let's say we've got roughly 30 minutes or more, or 30 to 45 minutes. You're fine. There's no timer on this clock.
Okay. So I have one CLI-driven workspace. So that just means it's not connected to a VC version control repository. You would put this block in your Terraform code, and you would then run a Terraform plan or apply, and then that would then get sent over to Terraform Enterprise, executed on the application, but the output would stream back to you in your terminal, the way you're used to seeing it with the Terraform CLI. And then the state file would be put in this workspace. So that's what I mean when I say CLI driven. And then we have VCS driven, meaning there is a version control repository backing each one of these workspaces. And those are set up with triggers. In the event there's a commit, a push, a PR, what have you, a plan or apply or both are going to run. So that's a GitOps workflow. So I've got all my workspaces in my Terraform Enterprise. I've got my teams, and each one of these teams have different permissions, right? And then each workspace has 1 to 3 state files. And then each workspace has a couple variables. And we're going to migrate all this.
Good names for the teams too, by the way.
Yeah, I love the Thor themed names. Nice.
Let me share my entire desktop now. All right. Can you see that just fine?
Yeah.
Too small?
Can you Command plus a little bit, a couple of times, just for the recording?
Is it working? I'm on Mac, so.
Oh, it's Mac plus.
It's not working.
Oh, really?
Let's see. I'm using a Windows keyboard on Mac too, so.
Oh, then it would be the Windows key plus.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying.
Highlight the VS Code window. Not try it.
Oh, you mean, why is it?
That's fine. We're recording at higher than 1080. So
I'll try to view. If you're in the VS Code, go to the view menu too, or the edit. See if there's a zoom option. Maybe it's a different key binding.
Oh, you just want VS Code to be bigger? Gotcha.
Well, where's the where are you running this from? In the VS Code window or in the?
I'm kind of going to flip back and forth to both.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you could make the terminal just a little bit bigger, the other screen's fine.
Okay, let me see here. Is there a zoom button here?
You should be able to go up to window at the top and then hit. Is it window, and then it'll give you an option to zoom. Yep. Ooh. I didn't know it was going to do that.
I think it's under the view menu.
If only we had a technical person in the audience to help us with this.
Or maybe edit.
There it is. Zoom in, zoom out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it was Command equals? Was that the
Command plus. Command plus to make bigger. Command minus to go down.
That's what it normally is. There you go. That was it.
Okay.
Boom.
Better?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So following that TFM documentation, we have a link on how to download the binary. It just comes from GitHub. We push a release. So you would just copy this, fill in the version number, and then you would get the binary. So we have the TFM list command. So if we're doing discovery and we're like, how many workspaces do we have? Oh, before I do that, how does TFM know where your source and destination org are? So when you run a TFM command, you can pass a -- config and then the path to a .tfm.htcl file. Or by default, if you provide nothing, it's going to look in your home directory for .tfm.htcl. And this file is going to contain, please nobody use these right now. Your source host name, your source org, your source token with the appropriate permissions, your destination host name, org, and token with the appropriate permissions. And this is how TFM is going to know what's your source and what's your destination. And then how should I authenticate using the API? Then you have the ability to pass in a project name on the destination side. So projects are newer in Terraform Enterprise. You can essentially assign a workspace to a particular project. And then here's where we're going to put additional items as we need them. So for now, I've got these commented out. It's a list called workspaces and a map called workspaces map. But essentially, if we provide this list, we will only copy these workspaces. instead of all workspaces. And if we provide this map, we will only copy these workspaces. But when they get to the destination side, they'll get the name on the right side here of the map, right? So then this is an HCL. That's why it looks kind of weird for a map, but this is how we're solving that dual naming convention. So if you have two workspaces with the same name between two orgs and you want to go down to one Terraform Cloud org, then you would say, hey, this source org, when it goes to the destination, rename it to this. And everything else is going to stay the same. So if I do a TFM list workspaces, so I'm doing discovery, I'm getting a list of workspaces from Terraform Enterprise. We found however many workspaces. And then we're going to get this pretty table with each project name for each workspace, the Terraform version for each workspace, what VCS repo it's connected to, bunch of good information, right? And then we can do --JSON, pipe it out to JQ. And this would be useful for building our Terraform configuration, our TFM configuration file. If we only wanted to copy certain workspaces, we could grab this list, take out whatever workspaces we didn't want to migrate, and then just copy paste this into the TFM configuration file. So once discovery is done, right, I'm going to go ahead and first copy my teams. So I'll do a TFM copy, right? And then what do I want to copy? Teams. So TFM copy teams. And we're going to copy all teams. So we're looking at the source. We found 10 teams. We looked at destination, found 12 teams. And then we say, does the team you're trying to migrate already exist in the destination? And if it does, we're just going to tell you that it already exists, and then we're not going to migrate it. Did I see a hand there?
Oh,
Roger?
no. I was you're hitting on the point that I had asked earlier, so that's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we migrated these teams. So if I come over here, Terraform Cloud, I look at teams, I have all these teams here now, and they have all the permissions that they had in Terraform Enterprise.
Nice.
And then for Raja, when I rerun this now, existing destination will not migrate.
Nice. Good.
So the next, we're going to copy workspaces. And if I do a -- help, I can see more options that are available to me. But if you just do copy workspaces, this is how you'll copy the workspaces. And it's saying that there's no workspace mapping found in the configuration file. So that means it didn't find the workspace -map or workspace list. So we're just going to copy everything. All workspaces will be migrated from here to here. And we're just going to say, yes, we want to do this operation. So now I've migrated all these workspaces. So I go workspaces. So I can see they're all here in Terraform Cloud now. But all they have are whatever workspace related settings that they had, like name, execution mode, Terraform version, all that jazz. But it doesn't have the state file or the variables or the team access permissions yet. All we really did was migrate the workspace container itself. So next, we want to do a workspace --state. And again, do you want to do all workspaces? Yes. So we're going through all the source workspaces. We're looking for every state file in every source workspace. And then we're seeing, is there a matching destination workspace? And then if yes, is state file serial number, whatever's in the source, in the destination? If yes, we'll just skip it. If not, we're going to migrate it. So here, this workspace, we're migrating 3 state files. And state files in Terraform have a serial number. So your first version is always serial 1. And then here, the latest is just serial 3.
So there's a question out on the out here inside the chat, and it's could you copy all of them into a single new project, i.e. imported workspaces?
Yes. So there is an option in the Terraform configuration file to specify a project that you would like to move all the workspaces into. So when this is done running, I'll pull it up again.
Very cool.
Really great question, by the way, Steve. Thank you.
And it takes a little bit, but it's a lot quicker than doing it manually.
Doing it.
So while we're waiting on that, can I ask you just one quick question in regards to tokens and stuff like that? I noticed before you were, flashing
I knew you were going to ask this.
I'm a security guy. What do you want?
I know. I'm going to delete them after this.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. All right. Because we wanted to make sure if we needed to blur.
Yeah. I didn't know how else to get around this. So I'm just going to delete them after the call is over.
It was either that or we were going to fuzz them out. Actually, no, we got 6 very shady looking people in the audience, so we probably want to recreate them.
The good thing is nobody can hit the Terraform Enterprise one because that's locked down to my IP address.
Nice.
The Terraform Cloud is my personal org, so I don't know what's going to happen there, but I don't know what they can do. I don't really care.
There's one particular guy in the audience, Graham Mitchell, super sus. Don't trust him at all.
Okay, so state files have been moved. So Terraform Enterprise, if we just pick a workspace like 4, right? We saw in the source, we had 3 state files. The most recent one was serial 3, and we just have a random pet of Liberal Falcon. So if we go to workspace 4 in Terraform Cloud and we look at states, we should have 3, and we do. And the most recent should be serial 3, and the pet should be Liberal Falcon. So that's how we know that we have the exact state file, the latest one, moved from enterprise to source. So if I were to run, after all said and done, run a Terraform apply over here, I should get no code changes as long as my Terraform Enterprise workspace was healthy and applied. If you do get code changes, then your workspace probably wasn't healthy, the source one.
So when you showed us before, like a running log of all the things that have been done in a particular workspace, does that get transferred over to as well?
Runs actually cannot be moved. Yeah, we don't have a capability to do that. All right. Oh, and then somebody was asking about that project thing. So yeah, there is a variable called destination TFC project ID. And this would really just be the name of the project that you're trying to put all the workspaces in when they go to the Terraform Cloud side. All right, so we moved workspaces, teams, we moved workspaces, we moved workspace states. So let's move all of our workspace variables. Is it workspace? I need to work on this naming convention. We're going to do all workspaces. And so with everything we copy, we're always looking for it already existing. And if it already exists, we're just not going to do it. So we're copying all the variables for every workspace. The only caveat here is if you have a variable marked sensitive in the source, we can't actually migrate sensitive values to the destination. So it will migrate the variable with the key, but then it is still your responsibility to go and update the secret value in the new workspace.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you asked my question, John.
All right, so variables have been copied, so I should see those on the Terraform Cloud side now, and I do. Right? Like imagine how much time that would have taken us to create each one of these, and then the last one we'll do, well, not the last one of the last, we'll do team access. So now we're going to look at every team assigned to the source workspace and what their permissions are, and we're going to assign them to the destination workspace with the same permissions.
That's separate from the teams themselves?
Correct. Yeah, because it's a little weird the way the RBAC works is a team can have organization level permissions. But then when you create a workspace, you assign a team to a workspace. And at that time, you specify the level of permissions that team has on the workspace.
I see. Okay.
I like to explain it like we have 4 tiers of permissions in Terraform Enterprise and Cloud. We have organization level, project level, workspace level, and user level.
Man, that sounded like a good test question.
And that was 14 less than AWS has, so I'm all for it.
All right, so those permissions have been migrated. So if I go to the workspace and look at team access, I see that Team Loki has been assigned now on the Terraform Cloud side, and it has read permissions the same way it does on the Terraform Enterprise side. So then at that point, the only thing left to do with our workspace migration is to migrate the VCS connection. So right now, this workspace is connected to a repo called my TFC bootstrap code. So I have to get, say my migration's done, and now I want to connect this to my TFC bootstrap code. Right now, it's just hooked up to nothing. So before you run TFM, one of those steps was to manually create your VCS provider. So within Terraform Enterprise and Cloud, we have providers, right? And these are where you connect your version control like GitHub, GitLab to Terraform Enterprise. And when you do that, you get a unique OAuth ID token. So here's my Terraform Enterprise one. And then I have set up the same exact GitHub organization on the Terraform Cloud side. Nope, I'm on the workspace. And this one has its own unique OAuth ID token, right? So I need to go through every source workspace, figure out what repo is connected and what VCS provider OAuth ID token it's using, and then go through every destination workspace and assign the same repo from the same provider to the workspace. And the way that we have decided to handle that in TFM is through a map. So you have the option to provide a map called VCS-map, and you would provide the source version control OAuth ID, and then what is the same version control provider OAuth ID on the destination side, right? So if this is GitHub org 1, this should be GitHub org 1's unique OAuth ID on the destination side. I'm trying to really make sure that makes sense. I hope it makes sense.
You're doing a 1-for-1 mapping, in other words, right?
Yes, yeah, we're doing a 1-for-1 mapping, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then what we can do is we can run TFM copy workspaces -VCS. We're going to do all workspaces. And so now we're looping through every Terraform enterprise workspace. And we're saying, what's your OAuth ID? Okay, is that in the map? Okay, here's the map, the corresponding OAuth ID in the destination. We're going to go ahead and assign that same repo from that provider. So now, if I go back to workspace 4, which was the workspace that we were looking at earlier, I can see I now have the same repository connected as the one I had in Terraform Enterprise. And I'm connected to that provider. So at that point, we still have to figure out our cutoff process, but we just migrated 10 workspaces, state files, teams, permissions, variables in the course of 15 minutes in a demo, right? So
Mic drop.
oh, I wanted to demonstrate one more time the different workspace options in the config file. Right, this list and this map here. So I'm going to run a secret command. Nobody knows this exists. Let's edit this part out. But you won't find this if you run a -- help. This is going to destroy every workspace created with TFM only in the destination. There is actually a hidden tag you can append to a workspace using the API when you create it. So we append a tag called TFM. And when you run a TFM nuke, it's actually going to destroy every workspace created with TFM in the destination side. And that helps me in my testing. So
Is there well, you mentioned that's not in the help, but I guess just generally, is there like a dry run command?
no, there is no dry run command. That is like a feature request we're thinking about. But I want to preface all of this with so the three of us who got this together and decided, we're going to write this tool for HashiCorp and our partners and individuals who feel comfortable enough doing this themselves. We didn't know a lot of Go when we first started writing it. So the fact that we have achieved what we have achieved is great.
Yeah, no, it's a great tool, and thank you for putting it out there for folks to see and use.
As a security guy, I'm sorry, but you typed a nuke command and it didn't even prompt you. Like, are you sure?
No, it did. It did, didn't it?
Oh, it did?
I thought I saw like a yes, no thing. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I thought it did too. Oh, I guess that wouldn't show up in the history. I don't know. We'll see in a minute.
Do you scroll up or it doesn't give you the?
No, I already. Oh wait, I already cleared the screen. Yeah.
There it is. Where? Isn't that it right there? TFM nuke workspaces.
Well, the thing is that it had like some other like additional red lines going on that may have. Yeah, what's that?
No, this is a different thing. Yeah.
But I thought I saw a yes, no.
Absolutely nada.
Are we at time, Chris, or do I have another 5 minutes?
We have another 5 minutes. This is really good stuff. If this was a crappy demo, I would have been like, nope, we're out of time.
All right. So in the documentation, we have a couple config file. Here's all your config file options, right? But here's where you would find information on like, how would I do an agent pool mapping if I'm doing agent pools, variable set mapping, right? Here's the workspace list, and then there's a workspace map right here, and then a description of what all these things do. But I just blew away everything in the destination, so we're good to copy everything again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment the workspace list. So now we should only be copying these 2 workspaces. So found 2 workspaces in the workspace list, and then we migrate those 2. And then some people might say, why would you want this? And it turns out that people using Terraform Enterprise or even Terraform Cloud, they have a lot of erroneous workspaces sometimes just hanging around that they don't really care about. So that's why we introduced this. And then I'm going to comment that out. So it's important to note that you cannot have both of these in the config file at once, the workspace list and the workspace map. What did I just do?
We have another interesting question. I really like this one about can regex be used?
I don't know. I don't I don't think we tested that. We write that down actually.
Right.
Like within the config file?
I'm assuming for the workspaces, like the -src -ws*.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me do a test offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know how I'm going to get back to. Is there a way I can get back to users or viewers?
Yeah, we can. I mean, once we post this,
Okay.
people can ask questions in there, and then if they shoot them to, we'll see the questions in the show notes, and we can get back to you. And you and I work together now, so it'll be easy to find.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan, Stan. Yeah. All right. So currently you cannot have a workspaces list and a workspaces map in the config file at once. We're working on fixing that. But if you tried to have both at once, you would get an error. And the error doesn't really make sense because I just found out about this like last week. So just know for now, at the time of this recording, you can't have both the workspace list and workspace map. But the workspace map, again, we're saying the source workspace on the left side of the equal sign is the name, but when we copy it, give it this new name on the right side. So I'm going to run copy workspaces. We're using the map workspace map. And we migrated it with the new names. So source workspace this, destination workspace this. And if I go to Terraform Cloud, I get new workspace 3 and 4. So yeah. And that's Terraform Enterprise to Terraform Cloud migration with TFM.
Very cool. And of course, there's a load of preparation beforehand and customer communications and business, all of the things that are entailed. This is like the sizzle and pop at the end of a long migration. This is awesome.
Yes. Yep. After 2 weeks of planning, making roadmaps, you spend a few days running these commands over and over, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Josh. And I also noticed, and I guess just real quick for the audience, I was just perusing the README, and it looks like this also will work in a GitHub Actions pipeline, and you have an example in there to do that. So I could see situations where, like you said, if customers are using a production Terraform enterprise or organization or whatever, and are migrating, they can just have this be triggered, if state files are updated or whatever, right, to help them out with the migration piece.
Right. Yeah. And so specifically, Carl Javier, who assisted in writing this, he is the one who came up with that. He said that, because migrations take so long, we're probably going to want this to run inside of a pipeline, right? Because TFE is not just going to stop working and be shut down. People are going to keep running planes and applies, while you're moving stuff until you actually, pull the plug. So,
right. Yeah, I think that's a great feature.
Where did he put that in here in the docs? Which section?
If you go under migration planning, it's at the bottom of the example scenario section.
Yeah, on the right hand side, click on the very last option. Keep going all the way down. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know he put this in here. Awesome.
Nice. We all learned something new today.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And that'd be great to, like I said, if you're still using the production TFE, TFC, the org, or what have you, you could take that and modify it or, so that way, if I make a new change or something, and then I can have this call to copy the state or check, it's idempotent, like you said. So you could just run this whole thing and only copy the things that changed or whatever. I don't know if this is exactly works like that, but I'm just, I can imagine a scenario where you would do that. So I think that's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Good stuff.
Awesome. Well, Joshua, thank you for that presentation. That was that was amazing. I super loved it. Very appreciative that the person that built the tool came on to showcase us the thing, and it actually worked in a live demo on vBrownBag, which never happens. It's not unheard of that things fail miserably.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. So
awesome. Well, let's take a quick pan, make sure that there's any other questions. Oh, Shala, you had a question. You want to ask it?
Okay, maybe I'm still claiming it, the newbie. Was, just kind of wrapping my head around, because I did see like in one of the chatters commenting about, what would be one of the top use cases for using this, and wrapping my head around it is like, maybe you started off with enterprise and then you start thinking, you know what, I don't want to self-host anymore, deal with the overhead of that, or maybe cost is becoming a factor. So then you're just like, hey, let's jump to the cloud. And so then it's like, all right, how are we going to get there? Is that the right thinking?
Yes. Yeah, you are spot on. The purpose of this tool is not just to help people move from, the enterprise application to the cloud application, but really to move from any Terraform enterprise organization or any Terraform cloud organization to any other Terraform enterprise or cloud organization. And the most common scenario that happens, like you described, is someone has Terraform Enterprise and they're free to use Terraform Cloud. There's nothing stopping them, and they don't want to keep maintaining their own application, right? Terraform Enterprise is under the hood. It's actually a lot of pieces. It's a PostgreSQL database. It's an S3 compatible object storage. If you're doing any kind of like high availability, active, load balancing, Redis, cache, right? Some organizations, they get all that, and then they realize, well, we can use Terraform Cloud. Why are we spending time and money and tech debt hosting our own enterprise application when Terraform Cloud is available to us and we're allowed to use it? Why not consume that, right? So that's generally the scenario that we see this happening.
Okay. So point of clarification, it's TFE to TFC, TFC to TFC, and potentially even TFC to TFE.
Correct.
Is cost a play? Like, do enterprises say, hey, we want to save money, and then we move from TFE to TFC? And if so, how do they calculate that? What is the cost consideration, or is that beyond the scope of I mean, obviously the tool doesn't do that, but when you're doing that for a customer, is that part of the play? Are they saying, oh, you can save money if you move to the cloud, or if you're of a certain size, then you can save because you've got all this back-end infrastructure that you are only using for TFE, which you can then free up? How does that work?
Right. So me personally, I'm on the post-sale side, so I don't get a lot of that information, like, okay, why are you moving? But I mean, I could imagine that at some point you're hiring people to maintain this application, your platform, you're using AWS resources, or if you're on-prem, you're using on-prem resources. At some point that there has to be a cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
Or right. But yeah, I don't personally know like what that driving factor is, what takes people away from Terraform Enterprise to Terraform Cloud. But yeah, I can imagine the top reasons are price. They just don't want to maintain it because there's nothing security wise in their environment that says you need to run Terraform Enterprise air gap, right? And that is a requirement for a lot of organizations. But for the ones where it's not, Terraform Cloud just makes sense.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks.
If you think about it, availability is probably another option too, right? Because I mean, you still have to, on-prem servers, you have to update them, and of course, you're gonna have to after you do the upgrades, you have to reboot because depending on whether or not they're using Windows and Linux, so there's probably a little bit of that too as well, right? Just
Right.
on that availability.
You've got to run your own DR scenarios for every piece of the application. Yeah. Is it going to be tier 0, tier 1?
Cool. As an ex-enterprise architect, I always have to ask those kinds of questions because I was always in the pre-sales and post-sales implementations. So
somebody said ops life. Oh, that was Shawa.
Yep, ops life. Nice. All right. You know how I can tell this went well? We went over by a good number of minutes. So I'm going to put a pin in this. Joshua, thank you so much. We will have this video up on YouTube within the next couple of days. Thank you for everybody that watched and listened and asked such wonderful questions. Sean Doyle, if you're still there, I guess thanks to you too.
You're still there.
Sean is clapping.
Oh, we always give Sean crap on here, Joshua. This isn't an isolated incident because you're here.
No, I figured.
But it's only because we love him. All right, folks, have a wonderful night, and we will see you again next week. Bye.
Have a good one.